Like the last thing you want to worry about on the day is like anything other than lifting. Getting in your attempt cards like a minute after you leave the platform is like kind of stressful when you're by yourself. So like the handler thing alone of having somebody to help you warm up, put the weights on, calm you down, bring you water, bring you Rice Krispies, whatever the hell you need at the point in time that you need it. It's just so useful to have something like that.
One of the best environments you could ever be in. Everyone's hyping each other up. Everyone's just trying to do the best for each other, you know?
It can get a bit stuffy though. You gotta get some air flowing or maybe walk outside a few times because
all the chalk flying around.
Oh my god.
People slapping people's backs.
I hated being that guy. It was like in the second meet, I was preparing for one of my lifts, and like some guy was like took chalk and like clapped a lot. So literally, like I'm just there like focusing. All I hear is like, so I just start like coughing, and it's like it completely threw me off before my lift. I wasn't expecting that.
Also, another thing I guess that new lifters participating should manage is going to the bathroom.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. I was okay. It's just, the people who have to constantly drink fluid because, they're just lifting so heavy. I guess to be aware of that, like how much do I drink? Okay, when do I go to the bathroom? Should I hold on or should I go now?
Because if you want to do upper lower splits, you could do that, but it's not going to be as good for powerlifting because powerlifting is those 3 lifts in the same day. So if you're just used to doing squats and then the next day you're doing bench and then the third day you're doing deadlifts, then when you get to a powerlifting meet, you're not going to be used to having that accumulation of all 3 lifts on the same day. And I think it's important to do those kind of SBD days. All right. Welcome to the first ever segment of Getting Curious with. I'm here with Anthony, Strength Explained, and Heiko, my co-host for Curiousaholic. So this is our first ever interview segment. We're going to be getting curious with a powerlifter today. So his name is Anthony Garacci. We compete in powerlifting together. We've been doing that for quite a while now. And basically, this new segment is going to be to interview people of kind of like all walks of life. And in this case, it's powerlifting. Just pick people's minds and kind of learn more about us by interviewing other people and getting curious with those people. So, Anthony, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, kind of tell us who you are, how you got into powerlifting, especially, and just how we started, kind of how we connected as well and got into powerlifting together too.
All right. So, like you said, my name is Anthony Gracci. I guess my TikTok name is Strength Explained, where I post like a bunch of stuff, like gym PRs and just like general information that just kind of I felt like saying to help people out. That's kind of the whole reason why I started that. The way I kind of got into powerlifting was honestly like by fluke. Like I was into the gym, and actually me and Evan, we used to run Greg O'Gallagher's like Kino Body programs. So like we never really did powerlifting, but like we always kind of liked like the heavy stuff because like he kind of like promotes that. And just one random day, I saw like the 2 people on Instagram that like really inspired me to get into powerlifting was Sawyer Klatt and funny enough like Justin Lee, and I both saw them deadlift over 700 pounds, and I'm like, I want to do that. So that kind of started the whole, I guess, rabbit hole to start the whole powerlifting thing. And like since then, like I've always like trained for powerlifting. Like obviously, like I also have like bodybuilding goals and this and that, but like you will always catch me doing barbell squats, some type of barbell deadlift, and some type of barbell bench. And
that's cool. Yeah, so back on that point about the Kino Body thing, and that's kind of how, like, we knew each other before 2019, but like I guess we kind of got closer at that point when we started the kind of like a weight loss journey back in those times where we kind of started following Kino Body stuff, and we just kind of got into powerlifting because Kino Body actually kind of advocates for those, like you said, like those compound lifts. Like he really likes the overhead press, like with the barbell, RDLs, like Romanian deadlifts with the barbells as well. So it made it so that we kind of got interested in that, just some following Kino Body stuff, even though Kino Body doesn't really do any kind of powerlifting specific training.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It was like more like so you want to do a heavy set and then not as heavy set. And it's like, that just kind of, once I saw like the deadlift thing, I was like, okay, so I could just do the same thing, but on deadlifts now and like potentially do 700 pounds, which at the time I was like, that's crazy. So how that was.
Yeah.
And then as far as like me and you, right, Evan, Like when we kind of like kept talking and training more along like with each other, we were like, okay, now we're doing a powerlifting meet, and we literally we trained together for like 16 weeks straight, like 4 workouts a week, pretty much like 3 hours every single time. So
Yeah, a lot of training
yeah.
together, and that's how kind of Heiko got into the picture as well. We, Heiko was my handler for the meet my handler for both meets we did last year, and he's kind of in our friend group now, so it's cool
Yeah,
to
no,
Yeah,
it's
it really
pretty
worked out
cool.
really well.
Yeah.
All right. So how about you kind of give us your, overall experience of, how the the meets were last year, and, what did you learn from them, and what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Uh, well, number one, I think competing was genuinely the most scary but euphoric thing that I've done in my life. Like you kind of like go with this mentality of, okay, I'm spending like whatever it is, 10, 12, 16 weeks preparing for like literally this one day, these 3 lifts, these 9 attempts. And it's like all the work that you put in from those like whatever 10 to 16 weeks beforehand, like kind of shows itself on that day. And overall, it would like it's so euphoric because it's like literally no matter how strong you are, everybody is encouraging you to do your best. Like regardless of if you're deadlifting 100 pounds, 500 pounds, 800 pounds, like everybody is cheering for you, and it's just like I don't know, it's just such a euphoric feeling to be around such a positive environment for whatever, like what is it, 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours? It's
Yeah,
honestly,
it's a long
yeah,
day.
it's a long day. It's
Yeah.
Oh
amazing to
yeah.
be around, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you bring that, at a powerlifting meet, there's kind of the like camaraderie there, right? It's not like people are trying to bring each other down and, telling each other like, oh, you're not going to make this lift or whatever. No matter what strength level you are, even if you're competing against each other, everyone really tries to like bring each other up, and everyone wants each other to succeed, which is like one of the things I love the most about powerlifting, I think.
100% I agree with that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think so was that like all you took from that? Like what were like the intricacies of it? Like what did you find, rather challenging? What did you find easier? Like what was your thoughts on that stuff? Like what was the hard part from the meet?
Honestly, the hard part is like you'd be surprised of how much like stuff you actually have to like get together, like and get down before you actually go and compete. Like it's not like, okay, just gonna go into this gym, throw on my singlet and bench 3 times, deadlift 3 times, squat 3 times. Like you have to register for everything. You have to make sure you do your CCS thing, which is like for people that don't know, it's like pretty much like a drug testing like lesson that you need to like get your certificate for before you compete, because it is like a drug tested federation. So you have to do that. You have to make sure that you know what your attempts are going to be on the day. You have to make sure that you get good sleep and recovery for the day. You have to make sure that you have all your equipment. And the most important and probably like I wouldn't say like the hardest part, but definitely the thing that could screw you the most is like having as well on the day. Like the last thing you want to worry about on the day is like anything other than lifting.
Mm.
Like getting in
Yeah,
your
exactly.
attempt cards like a minute after you leave the platform is like kind of stressful when you're by yourself. So like just the handler thing alone of having somebody to help you warm up, put the weights on, calm you down, bring you water, bring you a Rice Krispie, whatever the hell you need at the point in time that you need it. Like it's just so useful to have something like that there. And I think getting all those different factors together is probably like the hardest part of a meet. Because on top of all of that, then you also have to focus on actually performing.
Mm.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's why a person like Heiko, who ended up being like my handler, is super useful in the competition, because if for those that don't know, like what a handler does is essentially, helps the lifter just do as best as he can on the day, right? He, like Anthony said, he brings them anything. If something's tight, he'll massage. Like you're kind of like a little bit like the slave for the day, but yeah, like for example, Heiko did such a good job with me because everything was like planned out properly. All the attempts were written
Mm.
down, and it just ended up being like a really good experience. Like, Heiko, what did you think of that experience as being a handler?
At first, I remember when you asked me to be your handler, I was like, you know, why should I, what is this for? Can't you just go and do your lifts, like a normal gym, just go and do it? But, after you explained the process, I understood that, there is an importance to a handler, or we could just call it an assistant, someone that assists you and accompanies you and just takes care of everything else so that all your mental capacity is on your lifts, basically. And the experience, was pretty cool. It was, the first time we went, that room with all the men, it was a testosterone fueled room. And I don't think you can, experience that anywhere else. But, at a powerlifting meet, like the energy there, the people grunting and lifting and the brotherhood. But yeah, the first time, we were trying to figure it out, and it wasn't always clear cut, and we weren't sure when should we like practice before the attempts and all that. Good thing, like the first time there was someone who was kind enough, another handler for a couple of lifters there, that shared a rack with us and helped us get through it.
Matsur, I think, right?
Yeah,
his name was?
yeah. I think that's what his name was. So shout out to him. He was pretty chill and helped us out. But yeah, I mean, the job of a handler is not, particularly, difficult. You just gotta, pay attention to the lifter and not just like sleep around. And he's like, hey man, I need you to help me with something, or could you give me a bottle of water? You gotta be there, and sometimes you gotta act quick, like writing down the attempts and then giving it to the people at the desk, because you got like 1 minute, and if you don't make it there, they might not count it, or So there are some rules to respect there.
Yeah. So essentially, if you don't get in your attempt card on time within the 1 minute, all they do is they take your previous attempt and they add 2.5 kilos on top of that,
which is
lift.
nothing.
So you're just basically doing like, what is that, 5 pounds more kind of thing?
Literally the same.
So
weight.
It's
almost.
Yeah, you're almost doing the same attempt essentially. I find that rule a little funny. Like, I feel like 1 minute is not like that long to assess if like what weight you should give in on the next one. It's a little crazy in that sense.
Yeah, because
I guess they have to make it quick, right?
Yeah, that's what I figure. I feel like it has to be like what's, I guess, the word, like cohesive. Like it can't just be like, okay, just you give in your attempt like 2 seconds before you go on the platform. Then it's like, all right, well, I guess we're doing this weight, and it's like,
yeah.
I think I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. Like I see what you're saying, that like it might not be the best, and like honestly, yeah, I do agree that maybe 1 minute is like a bit too short, but I get the idea. Like you want the attempts to be put in like fast.
Yeah,
right.
Basically, yeah.
And yeah, it's like if you haven't done a powerlifting meet, like you don't understand how fast it goes until you're there.
Oh yeah.
Like when you're lifting in the gym, you could kind of go at your own pace, and you time your workouts, and you time your warm-ups and whatever, and your rest time. But at a powerlifting meet, like you don't go at your own schedule. It's everyone else's schedule, and you're going one after the other. There's specific flights, and it goes fast. So
yeah,
you also need to be like almost conditioned for that. If you're used to taking like 10 minutes between each set and training, when you're gonna get to a powerlifting meet, you might be a little bit surprised because the warm-ups go so fast. Like you put the plates on the bar, you warm up, someone else goes, and it's your turn. It goes fast.
Yeah, there's no time to faff around, or you got to know what you're doing in some sense. Be prepared, and that's why as a handler during the second meet, I was much more prepared with the numbers. We made sure we knew all the attempts, the color plates that we were gonna put, so we don't have to there's no guesswork in the warming up process, and I think that went a bit smoother on the second time around.
Yeah. And shout out to Calgary Barbell for that, right? I'm subscribed to like a training program with Calgary Barbell, and they have like this attempt selection Excel sheet where you could put in like your attempt, and it tells you all the warm-ups you should do. And we ended up using that specific sheet on the day, and it ended up working really well.
Yeah. And like I agree, like having everything written out was probably the best thing because going back on what Heiko said before, it's like it's not a hard job, but it's just like so time sensitive and like you need to know what you're doing like precisely.
Yeah. As precisely
exactly.
as possible, you know. Obviously, there are some things that are going to be, you know, unpredictable in the day of. You know, like once Evan, I guess, you know, the first time when we did the first meet, there was at one point where you did your attempt number during your warm up, and then you realized after the fact, you're like, wait, this was supposed to be the one that I was doing on stage.
I actually benched more in the warm up room than my opener I was going to take on the platform. So when I got on the platform, I was like, oh wow, that was easy because I did it already did it in the warm up
without
room.
realizing. Yeah. So
Yeah. So Anthony, what did you end up totaling on both meets? Like, if you don't mind sharing, like if you remember the numbers, I'm sure you remember because I know how you are and you're pretty like specific with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you caught me. I know the second one I totaled like 990 or like some number like ridiculously close to 1,000. I was like super pissed that I didn't get it. And the first one I think I totaled maybe like under that like maybe 965 or 960.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter the exact number. I'm just kind of curious on what exact, like more or less what you ended up totaling, and see like for the first meets, I think the most important thing is not really hitting like a super big total or hitting like crazy PRs or whatever. I actually think the most important thing is to go like get your attempt successful. I think that's like one of the most important things, like going 9 for 9 on your lifts. I think that's even more important than, you know, hitting a huge total or whatever. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I agree with that. I mean, the first one it's like practice. It's the trial run. You're not getting unless you're literally your first meet like you're getting records. Like, who cares? It's you versus you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
And I think in that first meet you ended up going, what was it, 7 for 9 or 8 for 9?
no, that's the thing. The first meet I went 9 for 9. I like undershot. I undershot everything. And the second meet actually I went I got 6 out of the 9 lifts because right like unpredictable stuff happened. For some reason on my bench after my first attempt, my left hip was like acting up really weird, so I couldn't get the leg drive that I wanted without like it being super uncomfortable. So I failed my second and third attempts on my bench, and then for my deadlift, I guess it was like just me being a bit too hopeful on my third attempt, and I failed that too. So that's how I went 6 for 9 on my second meet.
And I think, I think that's the most important thing. Like, you know, you learn from that experience. The first meet you went 9 for 9, which was at STH Power Gym in Quebec. And then our second meet was Barbell Rivenal. So, you know, like different environments and all that, it could also affect. But I think, yeah, you just learn from the successful attempts and the ones you missed, what you could improve. I mean, in my first meet at STH, I almost bombed on squats. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
that was scary.
That was scary.
Yeah.
I got called for depth on 2 of the 3 attempts, and I made a kind of like a stupid mistake to not ask the judges like what I did wrong. Like if you're just getting into powerlifting, I suggest like if you miss an attempt, just ask the judges what you got called for. Don't just be like, oh, you know, I'll get it on the next one.
Because you might not know or realize it until it's too late. Because maybe for people who don't know that if you fail all 3 attempts, let's say in your squat, then you're disqualified, right?
Yeah, you could still finish the rest of the meet, but like your total is not counted.
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Oh yeah, I thought you have to leave.
Yeah, me too.
No, you could finish the meet if you want. I think like you could just kind of do it like for yourself.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's just
you. That's I think I don't know if that's how it works in Quebec, but I know other places they make people continue just like, you know, so they don't waste their day kind of thing.
Okay. Because I remember the first meet, wasn't there, you know, a guy who failed all his 3 squat attempts and then he just, you know, couldn't continue anymore.
Yeah, that's why I remember him just like leaving and like
he was like, you know, in despair.
Yeah, but I think it's because like he just figured it wasn't worth continuing.
It wouldn't be counted. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing. Like, if it's your first meet, there's like a lot of things that happen. You know, there's the weigh-ins that are kind of difficult to handle. Like when you get there, the first thing that's going to happen is the weigh-ins. So it's not like the most easy thing to follow. There's kind of like a little list on the door, and you kind of need to know when you're going to get called. If you miss your name, you're going to be at the back of the line, and it's not super fun because if you miss your weigh-in, then you're going to have less time to prepare for the lifts itself, right? So you have the weigh-ins that are the first thing, and then after that you have the taking the rack heights. So someone needs to check your rack heights, like what you're going to be using for squat and bench. Then after you take those things, you're going to have a kind of like a period where there's going to be nothing really happening, or you kind of you eat or something. It's kind of more relaxed at that point, and then you start warm-ups before the meet itself.
Yeah. So
yeah,
pretty much.
So I think it's for your first time, it could be a little intimidating. And I think one thing that ended up helping me and Anthony, when we did our first meet back in last April, we went to this info session at STH Power Gym in Saint Hyacinthe, where they literally told us like how everything was gonna go down. Like they told us, first you're gonna have the weigh-ins, then you're gonna have the rack heights, and they were just telling us step by step what to do. So when we got there, we were so prepared. Like it felt like we had already done a meet like a few times already. And the meet organizers actually told me and Anthony, like, it felt like you guys are kind of already prepared for this. Like you've done like 6 meets or something. So I think that was a cool thing.
Yeah,
cool
and I think also like the craziest thing about that was like we pretty much, because also like the thing that they really like emphasized was have a good handler for you, because for all the reasons that we explained before. And it's like from that meeting, me and Evan were able to like pretty much like instruct like Heiko, and also my handler. For the first one was my friend Brandon, and for the second one was another friend, Chris. But we were pretty much able from that one meeting to instruct 3 people to do this job, where like usually they say, you need somebody who's experienced, you need somebody who like has done it a few times already, this and that. And it's like I found it was just so valuable for what it was, like $20 or like $30. It was like 3 hours of our time. It was like more than worth it.
Yeah, it was really great. Like we even had a workout after when we were there on the info session day. Some of the coaches that were there were giving us tips on our squat and stuff. Like it was so great. Like it was a good experience.
Yeah, I guess to not be afraid to ask for help, really, from other lifters, other trainers, coaches. That's the thing. The community is there to help each other. And the end goal is not to like beat anyone or win some sort of prize. It's, you're competing against yourself. You're trying to better yourself, which was another thing. At first I was like, well, what prize do you win? Like, okay, at the end, the winner gets what? And Evan was like, nothing. I'm like, really? That's the thing. Other contests, sports, you win something, a prize, money or anything. But this is just like, okay, well, here's a top person. Here's the second. Here's the third. Hooray, let's take a picture, and that's it. It kind of ends there. But that's the whole thing. It's improving upon yourself and seeing how far you can go.
That's actually a interesting point you bring up, because it's something that like I've thought about recently. And it's like I'm just really excited to like go to like a provincial or even like a national level meet and just see like how, I don't know, like if it is tense in the air or not, because like there you're actually like competing for something like tangible. Like, okay, I am Quebec's #1 powerlifter in my weight class and age class. You know what I mean? So like I'm really curious to know like how the environment shifts when you go to like these more competitive meets.
Yeah, I was hearing I don't know if you guys know Matt Venna. I think
I've
you guys
seen
do.
some of his videos on YouTube.
Yeah, he's like another YouTuber. He's like a high level powerlifter in Canada, right? He was saying at I think recent nationals that like before his like I think he was trying to hit like a huge deadlift or something to put him in first place. Like apparently everyone in the back room was like hyping him up and all that. So so I don't know if it's going to be that different, honestly. I feel like powerlifting is just like that in nature, that a lot of people just kind of lift each other up. Maybe at the IPF level, maybe it'll be a little different because country versus country. But maybe up until the national level, I feel like everyone's just kind of in there to help each other out.
Might be a bit more competitive, but I guess still, people hold each other's backs, even in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were your for maybe a question for both of you guys? Like, what were your favorite like moments at those meets? Like, is there something that kind of stuck with you?
Anthony, if you want, you can go ahead.
Uh, sure. I'm just trying to think of like one specific one.
Maybe I could start. I mean, one moment that I think that was kind of funny. Maybe not my favorite moment, but more like a
Yeah.
funny one was when I had to take my opening squat on the last meet we did,
Oh
and
yeah.
we had like an issue with the rack height. I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
remember.
Oh
I
yeah,
was warming up. I was warming up with like you, with Anthony, and some other
yeah.
tall dude. So, Anthony was having an issue with the rack height because he was more or less the same height as the other guy. But me, I kept having to like kind of use
At a higher
like kind of go
level.
on my tippy
Yeah.
toes, right? Tippy toes to unrack the bar. And at the beginning with the first warm ups, it wasn't too bad because it was lighter weight and I could handle it. But getting to my last warm up, it started becoming heavy, right? So we decided it'd be dangerous to make me squat with that rack height. So we ended up having to kind of remove all the weight on the bar, change the rack height, then load the
Mm.
bar back again, right? So what that did was like it took a lot of time on our kind of our lifting schedule, with all the attempts going on. So we load the bar back on. Then I do my last warm up, and right when I finish my warm up, they call my name to go on the platform. So I wasn't expecting that. So I basically had no rest time between my last warm up and my opening squat. But that like really terrified me at the beginning because I was like, man, am I gonna fail my first lift because of
No,
that?
but it went pretty good. Funny enough, I think it was.
Yeah, I
yeah,
ended up smoking
Yeah.
that squat, I think.
dude. You ended up smoking like 400 pounds that you never touched in prep. So I guess it didn't bother you that
Yeah,
much.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Squats went really well that day. I don't know. I mean, for you too, right? I mean, I think just your last squat ended up being kind of like a RP like 10 squat or.
Oh, yeah, like my last attempt was 380. I never touched that. Like the highest I touched was, I think literally the highest I touched before 380 was 365 from the last meet. Because I remember taking 365 in that prep and I failed it because I did it after like a 3-day chalet bender, I guess.
Bender.
Yeah. So I ended up failing 365 in the second prep. So like when I got 380 and I actually got it in the meet, I was like, what the hell is going on? Like I was not expecting that, like especially after the prep I had on squats. Because you remember, like 3 weeks before I got really sick, and you had also another problem that I can't really remember. But like we were both like really like out of it for like 3-4 weeks before our meet,
Yeah,
and then we both
it was
ended
the
up
start
having
of
great
my
squats.
yeah, it was the start of my Crohn's. It was around there.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
And you. Yeah.
yeah, both of us for that meet were kind of we had the odds stacked against us, I would say a little bit.
Pretty much.
It was yeah, we were both literally considering pulling out of that one. It was kind of like a dire situation at some point.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. We just kind of like stared at each other for like 20 minutes. Like, like, do we just quit?
Yeah,
Honestly,
we got to that point.
I found my favorite part. I think that was my favorite part of the meet, where we both looked at each other like, yo, are we really going to quit? Then after like a bit of
Yeah.
thinking, we're like, nah,
Yeah.
fuck that.
Yeah, it's like shut up and squat at that point.
Literally. And then we just ended up going anyways.
Gotta power through.
Yeah.
Use the mindset.
Favorite part of the meet.
Yeah, it was the mindset at that point. I mean, there was. I remember that day. That was another one of my favorite moments. I guess, kind of like overcoming what happened was that day. I remember I woke up the night before. I woke up in the middle of the night. I think it was 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I felt like shit because my Crohn's had started and it was hard for me to lift and kind of deal with that, and I felt like so nauseous all night. Like I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to lift the next day. Like I was scared, and I remember just not telling you guys because I don't want you guys to worry about me. Because like if I worried, because like how they say like when an athlete kind of warns their coaches like, oh, I don't feel well, and then the coach kind of
Panicking.
starts like worrying. So I was like, oh, I can't worry Heiko because he might like overthink or something. So I just kind of kept it to myself and pretended nothing happened and ended up going really well. So I can't complain.
No, it went pretty well. Yeah, no, I'm proud of you guys that you pushed through. No, it went pretty good. From my end, like, an interesting thing, I guess, from both meets, similar, is that as the day goes on, the noise level increases because the lifts, from squat to bench to deadlift, like the energy and like the yelling and like go, yeah, lift, and it's like people go nuts. Like the last few lifts, which are the heaviest deadlifts, basically, are just insane. Like the way everyone yells, to encourage the lifter. I just find it, pretty funny and interesting.
Yeah. One of the best like environments you could ever be in. It's like everyone's hyping each other up. Everyone's just trying to do the best for each other. It's really cool to see.
It can get a bit stuffy though. You gotta get some airflow in, or maybe walk outside a few times, because it's it.
With all the chalk flying around.
Oh my god!
People slapping people's backs with the chalk.
I hated being that guy. Like in the second meet, I was preparing for one of my lifts, and like some guy was like took chalk and like clapped a lot. So literally, like I'm just there, like focusing. All I hear is like, so I just start like coughing, and it's like it completely threw me off before I lift. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I remember after my last deadlift, I kind of came up to Anthony. I gave him a hug, but I still had I had chalk on my back from like my squat. So then like Anthony kind of touches my back, and all the chalk goes flying. He starts coughing.
Yeah, my lungs were not with me at the end of that meet. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. That's why. Yeah. I think maybe sometimes they should focus a bit more on the air filtration and like ventilating, because it can get a bit. I mean, it's okay. It's you won't die, but.
Yeah, we also got. There's something that was kind of like underrated about those 2 days was we had really nice weather, which ended up being like a blessing almost, because whenever we wanted to take air or something or eat or whatever, go outside for something, like it wasn't like, oh, I have to like cover up from the rain or something like that. It was just perfect weather, and it was a nice day on both of those occasions.
We got lucky. Yeah
because I feel like if like you go outside and it's rainy and then you have to like go lift and you're all wet, like it's not super ideal, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Also, another thing I guess that new lifters participating should manage is going to the bathroom.
Why do you say that, Heiko?
I don't know. I was okay. It's just, the people who have to constantly drink fluid because, they're just lifting so heavy. Since you're also wearing a singlet, it can be a bit, awkward to try to get this off. So I guess to be aware of that, like how much do I drink? Okay, when do I go to the bathroom? Should I hold on or should I go now? Because sometimes it happened, right? Someone went and they called their name.
You just reminded me.
Yeah.
My official favorite moment was when our friend when he
oh my goodness,
for his first, I think it was like his first squat. Because like at the gym you have like the platform inside, right? But like there's one bathroom and then there's a porta potty outside, or like two porta potties or something. So literally, while his name is being called, literally everybody's looking around the gym like, "Yo, where are you? Where are you?" And then like literally all you see is just him coming back from the porta potty back into the gym, wondering what the hell is going on.
Were people yelling that he's in the bathroom? He's in the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Well, that happened to me right on the first meet. I drank so much water all week in preparation for that meet. Like, I just kept drinking like every day. Okay, I'm gonna drink a lot of water every single day just to make sure I'm really hydrated that day. And turns out like every 5 minutes I had to go to the bathroom, and it was so inconvenient because they call your name to lift. You're like, oh man, should I go to the bathroom or should I go lift? It was tricky.
Yeah. So it might sound funny, but you gotta learn to manage it. Yeah.
Literally keep it in and then go as soon as you finish your lift. You have at least a good 6-7 minutes, so you better make sure you get it done right after the lift.
Yeah, and I think that comes down also to sodium intake, right? Like how you're kind of balancing your electrolytes and how you're managing your fluids overall. Like if you're drinking too much water and not taking enough electrolytes, and your hydration level could kind of be like out of whack almost, and you're gonna have to run to the bathroom all the time. So that was another good thing that we did was we ended up bringing like a little thing of Himalayan salt, and we
just
you know
puts.
we used it whenever we felt cramping or something. I don't know if it's a placebo, but it ended up working.
Yeah, actually, that ended up like salvaging my deadlifts on the second meet because that cramp in my left hip just wasn't going away. So, like
Yeah,
you
and I
said,
remember recommending. Yeah,
whether it's a placebo or not, it worked for me. So
If it works, it works.
no
Doesn't
complaints.
matter. Yeah.
yeah. In lifting, if it's a placebo or it's not, like it doesn't matter, right? If it's a placebo but it helps you lift,
Yeah.
like okay, make it be a placebo.
It
at
just
that
shows
point.
the mind how much it's capable of, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember Anthony was starting. Was it on bench that you were starting to get cramps in your hip? You said.
Yeah, bench after first attempt.
Yeah, so after your bench, you started getting that cramp, and I was like, "Oh, Anthony, just take some salt, some Himalayan salt. We have some," and it magically went away.
Basically, yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
so don't know if it's placebo, but either way, it worked out. I mean, that's the important
Maybe
thing, I
in
think.
terms of like food to eat during the meet, right? Because I guess that too is important. Like, what kind of stuff do you bring to eat? Nothing like too heavy or crazy. A lot of Rice Krispies. Quick carbs. But I don't know. What would you guys? Yeah, since you guys brought your food specific to the meet, what would you recommend?
Yeah. Pretty much like from the info session, like the organizers were like, listen, you pick one meal that seems to agree with you on like a day where you need to perform, and you just bring that. Like if I remember correctly, like the guidelines were more or less like have like a little bit of protein, but like the rest should just be carbs, carbs. So that's why like Rice Krispies I found work really well because it's not something that's gonna make you feel like bloated and disgusting. It's literally just like carbs almost.
I guess because it's quick sugar.
Yeah, we
Like stuff like that.
we ended up kind of following the vertical diet almost for those meats, like just rice and ground beef. That was it.
Pretty much. Like literally, yeah, and whatever Rice Krispies and Gatorade we had that day. Like
Oh yeah, a lot of
that's it.
Gatorade. Caffeine. Man, you guys went nuts.
I could give you guys a quick tip with the caffeine if you want. We had a pretty good idea of because okay, so there's certain pre-workouts that you can't necessarily take because if you do get like drug tested or something like that, you might have like a banned substance in your pre-workout. So you don't want to be caught in a situation where you took a pre-workout that ends up having a banned substance. So what we ended up doing is obviously not bring pre-workout, and we ended up bringing these tall like Starbucks coffee bottles.
the
And they
cold
ended
brew.
up being like the cold brew, and they ended up being like the best thing. Like it gave me so much energy when lifting, and I think for Anthony too.
Man,
No
those were
complaints, man.
intense.
No complaints.
Yeah. I think we were like the basic white girls in that gym
Yo, literally.
when our Starbucks.
I think it was the most unique. Like I did not see anybody else there with coffee. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, I know it was.
Evan,
It was
didn't
funny.
you at one point put pink salt in the coffee, or was it in your flask? Or I don't
No.
remember.
Yeah, right. It was that like I had used like my bottle for water mixed with like Himalayan salt just to like I was mentioning earlier to balance the electrolytes and all. And I ended up using the same bottle for my coffee, and it tasted so bad.
Oh damn! Yeah,
that was also a pretty good moment. I gotta say.
Yeah, we're like stacking these up. Like I don't know.
They're coming
We each
back.
have like three. We each have like three favorite moments at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure we could think of more. I mean,
there was.
I think just overall like small things. Like I don't know. One guy was like asking me for water. Like it was weird. Like just the small things that made it fun. Like everyone helped each other out. Everyone was giving each other Gatorade. Everyone was giving each other water. Like no one had any ego attached to what they were doing, which ended up being the best part of that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Some people also were using smelling salts, which was pretty crazy, It's going.
Yeah. Those
That
are the
might
best, I
be or
think.
not recommended. So that's a pretty, we've never tried it, so
Yeah.
we don't know. But from what we've seen,
Well,
it's intense.
well, you wanted to try when you had
Oh
COVID.
yeah,
So I recommended
crazy
against
guy.
that.
Oh yeah, when I had my share of COVID, my smell taste was completely gone. And I was like, man, I need that smelling salt to rev up my smelling again.
I was like, dude, I think that's a bad idea because like if your ability to smell is gone, then you don't know how much like smelling salt you're actually taking, and that could be
Yeah,
dangerous.
no.
That's the thing. Like, I remember like watching a video on like whether or not you should take it, and it's like I remember the guy saying something along the lines of like, if you've never taken it before, don't take it on meat day because like you might react like terribly to it, and you might like feel super nauseous and like puke or something like that.
Hmm.
So like even to that degree, like it might not even be the best for you unless you've already like tried it in the past and seen if it like reacts with you well outside of a meat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's not for
exactly.
everyone.
You need you need to experiment with it before actually taking it at a meet, right? Because you don't know how you're going to react. There's a lot of things going on at a meet, right? There's like all the, I guess, anxiety, the kind of like the unknown. There's a lot of things going on. There's the weigh-ins, all that stuff. You don't know how your body's going to react under that kind of pressure and stress. And if you start taking crazy amount of smelling salts, and bad things could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to avoid that. So maybe let's go over some of the, training that we did. How do we kind of program all those training sessions for the meet and the build up to it? How do we plan our taper? Maybe we should maybe change some of that. But
Definitely gonna change some of that. Yeah.
yeah, so
So,
yeah, what do you remember from that?
well, I mean, I remember like we met up at the coffee shop one day. And we're just kind of like going over like templates that we came up with, and we're like kind of like going back and forth about like, oh, what we should do, this and that. And like, obviously, like in a perfect world, as a powerlifter, like if you want like the best results and you're going like off pure theory, it's like I want to do as many sets as possible, as many times a week as possible, with purely the competition movement because it's as specific as possible and you're getting as much volume in for that. But is that feasible? No.
Mhm.
Right? Like I really doubt that most people are going to be able to deadlift 4 times a week competition stance and like actually not like tear off a limb. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're programming for like a powerlifting meet, obviously the closer you get, the more specific you want to be and the more of like the competition movements you want to do or like that we wanted to do, which is what we were discussing, like variations and what to do. But like you also have to take into account like what you can actually recover from and how many times a week you can actually do something sustainably without getting hurt.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's the key, right? I mean, not getting hurt.
Mm.
Like in, for me anyways, like in both my preps I ended up first my back got injured in the
Mm.
first prep, and then the second one I got the Crohn's thing. So that's the most important thing. If you're not healthy, then you're not going to compete well. So my advice is stick to RPE, and if you guys don't know what RPE stands for, is like rating of perceived exertion. So, try to stick to an RPE that you could stick to, and it's not like overkill, and you're not going for super heavy lifts all the time, and sticking to a training that's focused more on like quality work than aiming for like crazy PRs every time. I think that's the key there.
Mm.
I agree. Yeah, like that pretty much chains exactly with what I said. Like doesn't matter if you're doing like everything like super specifically, if you get injured, then you can't
Yeah.
compete.
Yeah.
So even if you're going for like theoretically suboptimal gains by let's say doing like a variation that's like further away from the competition movement, like if you get on the platform healthy
Mm.
versus if you wouldn't, then that's all the difference.
So recovery is
Yeah.
important, right? As you get closer to the meet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, from our experience, I think like when you get closer to a meet, like the fatigue kind of accumulates throughout the weeks, right? And the closer you get, the more beat up you feel. And when you get to those final days before competing, that taper part of the program is going to be important, because that's when you kind of lay off all the heavy weights, lower the volume a little bit, and that's when you kind of get to recover and kind of compensate from all the fatigue that you got.
Yeah.
So
Pretty much.
yeah, I think it's important to have a good like peaking model, which I don't think we had the best one, but we could discuss that if you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start with that, you can.
I think the way we structured it was like we kind of first of all laid off the volume, right? Just lower how much we did, and then kind of lower even I think the amount of sessions we had, right? I think initially we were doing 4 times per week, and we ended up doing like 3, and then getting even closer to the meet, like we had like I think one session the week of,
Yeah, the week of the
like
meet, we
taper
had
week,
like one
right?
on Monday. Yeah,
Yeah,
we had like one on Monday or Tuesday, and then the meet on the Saturday.
which yeah, and I think the reason why our like that peaking model was maybe not ideal was I think since we were like I was injured, and it kind of made it like difficult to follow, and at that point I wasn't even following like a taper and a peaking model. It was just kind of going with like how I felt, like, all right, do I want to work out today? No, then I wouldn't do it. So I think if we could find something that we could stick to even more, it would be the best.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean like that just kind of goes like with the fundamentals of like making a program. It's like you could have as much theory as you want behind it. Like you could put what on paper should be the perfect deload, the perfect taper, but it's like different people have different needs. Like even the smallest thing, like you said, like maybe benching twice a week before your meet instead of once is like a deal breaker. Benching 3 times a week the week of your meet is like super important. Like people won't know that until they try it.
Mm.
Pretty
Yeah, that's
much.
that's a good point. Everyone's different, right? Some people like higher frequency, whereas others don't. It just depends how your body reacts to the certain stimulus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, everyone's different in that
Yeah.
regard, I would say.
Yeah, I guess younger, more, teenage people can take more, I guess, abuse, or can go through a lot more reps and sets than, us older folks. No, I'm kidding. We're not. But,
Yeah, like Anthony could take more abuse than we can.
yeah. Yeah.
For now.
But,
Anthony, when you get to our age, training is going to be different.
once you get to
Yeah.
the old age,
The whole 5 year difference.
Yeah, the 7-year difference.
7 years.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, was there anything else like training related that you want to kind of point out or something like that, or did we kind of cover all that stuff?
Where I mean, we spoke about the RPE, how important that was. Spoke about how like maybe sometimes being super specific isn't the right answer. Sometimes, depending on the person.
Yeah.
Spoke about tapering. I mean, I guess what we didn't speak about is what you do the rest of the year.
Yeah. So what kind of program do you run most of the year? Like kind of the evergreen program.
Yeah, like pretty much the rest of the year, I like you said, like that's exactly what I think we came up with was like an evergreen program where it's like you just rerun the same thing over and over again. Maybe you change the variations and the rep ranges a little bit here and there, but like it's really just focused on hypertrophy. Like
Yeah.
maybe like I know like sometimes I keep in my singles, or Evan, I think you keep in some singles or like some sets of 3 sometimes as well. But it's like for the most part, it's like unless you're like going for a meet, you might as well increase the amount of muscle you have on your frame so that next time you go for a meet prep and you're like getting into the lower rep ranges and you're getting more like strength adaptations as you get closer and closer to like singles, I guess. You want to have as much muscle as possible to like really transition all that strength potential in terms of like more muscle mass to more weight on the bar on the platform.
Yeah. And I've heard, I can't remember exactly which like high level powerlifter said this, but it's like what you should focus on is most of the year building your base so wide, and basically, yeah, just building your base in general, building all that muscle. And then when you get closer to a meet, it's like you have to teach your body how to use all that new muscle and make it like super specific.
Exactly. Like I think it was Ed Cohen who said like his year-round training is pretty much like him building a suit. so that when he goes into a meet, like he doesn't get injured and like he's just like strong as hell.
Can you repeat that last part? What was you kind of cut off there? What was it that you what was he trying to say? Ed
Like he
Cohen?
said something along the lines of like I can't remember exactly, but he said something along the lines of like my year round training is like for me to build like a body of armor,
Mm.
Yeah.
so that when I go into a meet prep, it's like I'm not going to get injured. I have a sufficient amount of muscle to make more strength gains, so on and so forth.
Yeah, he kind of says that he wants to have like chunks of armor everywhere,
Huh.
right? Like every like if there's a small, for example, if you mess up your technique a little bit, then you could have like this chunk of armor protecting you in the back. Like if something goes
Huh.
wrong, you'll have, let's say you're in a position where you need to use your upper chest more, then those heavy inclines are going to help build that upper chest, for example, and you'll be set for if something goes wrong.
Yeah, pretty much something
So
like
it's
that.
better to be like
Yeah.
a thicker power lifter than a skinny power lifter. Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry
there goes
about
your
that.
phone. It's all good. I mean, yeah, I don't think he's necessarily trying to say like thicker, or I guess what he means is just try to be
Mm.
balanced, right? Don't leave any stones like unturned. Just make sure that you do all your accessory work
So
and
you're well developed all
don't.
around because yeah,
Yeah,
everything comes together to help you, in those 3 compound lifts, right?
yeah, exactly. I think, and yeah, back on the programming thing, one thing that I think both of us kind of followed was how like Eddie Cohen used to like. If you guys don't know who Ed Cohen is, he's like probably one of the best powerlifters ever. I mean, I guess that's up to debate, but like one of the strongest powerlifters ever lived, kind of thing. And the way he used to structure his like training blocks would be, he would do like for let's say a couple weeks he would do sets of 8, and then he would just do sets of 8 for that time, and then he would go to the next block, and then he would become more specific. He would do sets of 6, and then leading into the meet he would just get more and more specific to what he needs to do that day. And we experimented with that, and I think it worked pretty well for me anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anthony, you tried that as well, right?
Yeah, something along those lines. I mean, I don't do it exactly like that, like always sets of 8, but like I have a bit more of like a balanced approach, I guess. But like, so it's like on average, my sets will be like higher reps further away from a meet, or like let's say right now where I don't have a meet in the near future, like like my reps are usually like a lot higher. So instead of doing like triples and sets of 2 or 3 or 4, like I'm doing pretty much like sets of 5, sets of 8, sets of 7, just higher reps in general,
Mm-hmm.
get more volume.
So do you like doing like the heavy singles throughout the year, or you haven't really experimented with that yet?
Yeah, honestly, I think genuinely like as a concept, heavy like year round singles are probably like the smartest thing to have if you can handle it, and if you don't like excite your like, because the thing is that psychologically some people they get way too like attached to that number. So like let's say as soon as they see that number go down slightly, whether it's because of an external factor, like let's say for me, with my second meet prep when I filled 365, I could have easily got all in my head like, oh, I might as well just quit now, this and that, without taking into account like I literally had terrible recovery for 3 consecutive days before that lift. So it's like, for certain people, maybe having that isn't like the best because they might get in their own. But as a concept of like you want to keep practice high with like what you're doing on the platform, like yeah, it's probably one of the best things to have in your program if you can handle it and not go crazy either with like maxing out every week because that's not what it is supposed to be
Mm.
either. Again, like a single is supposed to be like a practice. You're supposed to be keeping up your practice with the lift with a 1 rep.
Yeah. And I think with the singles, it could be good also to kind of like if especially if you're competing in powerlifting. Maybe if you're not competing in powerlifting, it's not that useful. But to practice the commands too. Getting
Mm.
closer to a meet, like just on bench. Start and press and rack, things like that. It could really help you on meet day, feeling more comfortable with that. Practice like long pauses, like for the press command on
Mm.
bench, for example. Things that could make you feel more at ease on that day. And if something goes wrong, let's say the judges are giving long pauses to everyone on bench, then you practice that already, and you're gonna feel confident that you could pause for a long time,
Mm.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
pretty
think,
much.
yeah. And I think that's something we did during our meet preps. Like towards the end, we just kept drilling those commands.
Yeah, I remember like one of our days was literally just like an SBD day, and all it was commands the whole time.
Yeah. When you say SBD day, you mean like for people that don't know, you mean like a
Like
day, yeah, like
a
a
day
day
where
where
you
you
do
do,
like squat, bench, deadlift.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, at a powerlifting meet, you're going to be doing those three lifts. So in your training, at some point, you should at least have, a day where you practice all three lifts combined in one day. Because yeah, if you want to do upper lower splits, you could do that, but it's not going to be it's not going to be as good for powerlifting because powerlifting is those three lifts in the same day. So if you're just used to doing squats and then the next day you're doing bench and then the third day you're doing deadlifts, then when you get to a powerlifting meet, you're not going to be used to having that accumulation of all three lifts on the same day. And I think it's important to do those kind of SBD days.
Yeah.
yeah. I think you bring up a really good point because especially that the squat and the deadlift are both like pretty much lower body movements. Like I think like a lot of people might get confused that, oh, why is my deadlift like so much lower on meet day than in training? And it's because, well, if you've never trained it right after squats, well, there you go. You're pretty much maxing out on squats, and then you're expected to max out on deadlift. So obviously, it's not going to be as high as what you could do fresh at the start of a workout on deadlifts.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people end up kind of not practicing that, right? They kind of just leave them standalone, like, okay, one day deadlift, one day squat, and then they get to the meet and they're like, what the heck? Like, I'm not used to this. And it's important to do that.
Yeah, basically practice for
Although,
the meet, yeah. Like what you're gonna
yeah,
be doing,
although like year round, I wouldn't necessarily always do SBD days. I would still have kind of like a squat day and like a deadlift day separate, and then when you get close to the meet, then you could combine them because if you do them all the time combined, I think it would probably be worse for fatigue management, right?
Probably I mean, if you're doing like competition squats and competition deadlifts on the same day, like year round,
Week after week, yeah.
Might
probably not the best idea for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think it's just more sustainable to have them on different days, and then when you just want to be, more specific for the meet, then yeah, just put them on the same day. But you don't have to do that every time. You could just have one SBD day in your week. It doesn't have to be like four of them,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think SBD days are pretty taxing in general, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's like I remember once I think it took me and you like what 3.5 hours to finish one, something ridiculous like that.
They're long workouts.
Oh yeah,
Like
that one day in my
long.
house.
Yeah, like it's long, warming up to relatively heavy weights, resting obviously, practicing commands, making sure everything's right.
Yeah.
Techniques and
Heiko's
stuff.
always like, man, you guys work out for like 5 hours. What is this?
It's too long for me. I got other stuff to do. No, but I mean, I understand when you're preparing for a competition like that. It takes time and effort and sweat and tears, and you gotta love it.
As they say, if you sweat more in training, you'll bleed less on the competition day. So it's
Wise words.
it's rough. Yeah, it's rough during honestly, you know what? I kind of find weird. Just on both the meets I did, like even after the meet, I still felt like I had more in like I felt like I could have done more deadlifts. Like it was like we were so conditioned for that. Then after the meet, it was like, wow, that was it. Like it was weird. That's how I felt, anyways. So yeah, I think it just comes down to like being super like well conditioned for what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like
so it doesn't like shock you or surprise you. Yeah, just got to be prepared.
Yeah, and I think you just gotta be prepared and do all the necessary training and not overdo it either, right? Not kind of be like, oh, today I'm gonna do like an RP 910 single for nothing. Like, what is the point of that? Like, I used to do that. Then I started to realize it's kind of stupid to do that. It's like, it's almost better to do like quality work than to do just max out for nothing,
Just like burnout.
Yeah, you'll burn out fast if you do that, I think.
Yeah.
So Heiko, when is your first powerlifting meet?
Yeah. You keep asking that, huh? Well, who's gonna handle you?
Well, we don't have to compete on the same day.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
we do different days.
Now you handle me. I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe someday. But I know, I gotta thank, like Evan for getting me more into the powerlifting style of training, just in general. Once I got my own home gym, I started doing, more deadlifts, more squats, benches. So, he encouraged me in that. But yeah, my current goal is more like building physique and more, I guess, aesthetic wise. But I guess my program has a mix of bodybuilding and powerlifting styles of exercises. And, I love the 3 main compound lifts. They've helped me grow in terms of strength and muscle. So those are great exercises. So it's not just for powerlifters, right? The SBD is, for everyone, bodybuilders alike. But yeah, I'll see. I mean, I don't have any intentions for now to compete necessarily, but maybe one day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be there to handle you.
No, that'd be great.
Both of us.
Yeah.
To support.
So, like, Anthony, what are your goals for like the future in powerlifting? Like, what do you plan on competing in? Provincials? You want to go to nationals? Like, what are your goals for that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like I want to go to provincials. I want to go to nationals, like at some point, and that just boils down to like me putting in the work. I mean, I do have a long way to go. Like I said, like my total is at like right now, like slightly above 1,000 pounds. Like I think it's like 1,025 or like 1,030 maybe. But like to actually go to provincials, I think it's like a 1,265 or like a 1,270. So it's like I still have a long way to go. And if I want to get there, it's like it's all about just putting in the work. But I definitely like in the future, I do see myself getting there, at least provincials.
I think you'll get there, man.
Yeah.
Just gotta, like you said, be consistent and put in the work. That's all it comes down to it.
Yeah, just literally just like training like a dog for X amount of time, and I need pretty much.
And then you have
it's
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm saying, you train like a dog, and then you have a guy like Justin Lee who comes in and like beats the the whole crowd. Like, I just trained 4 days before the meet,
Yeah, I remember his story. Like he posted like a YouTube short about it. He's like, yeah, so I took this meet like 6 days before it actually happened or something. It's like, yeah, I just kind of went in there. So I think he did like I think all 3 of us, we witnessed like a 740 deadlift that this guy just pulled out of nowhere.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah, casually pulling 739 or something.
Well, we're all like, sweating and suffering, and he's like, just hold my plate, bro.
I mean, yeah. I guess at that point it comes down to, separating the people that have extremely good genetics. And obviously I know Justin Lee works like really hard and he's always training. I always see his story, but it's undeniable that the guy has like insane genetics and also really good leverages for powerlifting, I think.
Yeah.
Dude, and the guy's also put in like, I think like close to 10 years at this point. Like it is a 10-year sport.
Yeah.
Like all the people that you see that are deadlifting like 700 plus pounds and stuff, like they've guaranteed put in like years of their time.
Yeah, but you do have those, freaks, like teenagers or something that's like 17, 18 that's already capable of pulling 500 plus pounds.
Yeah, we know one.
yeah,
we do.
But honestly, I think that opens up an even like more interesting discussion, because it's kind of like what's the word? It's the analogy with the cat that he might be dead in the box. Like, Schrodinger's cat. Like you have a box and you have a cat inside, and you don't know if the cat is dead or he's alive until you open the box. And it's like I kind of like feel the same way about lifting. It's like, yeah, like let's say I would have assessed my genetics when I first started, when I was like a stick and I could barely bench the bar. It's like, oh well, My genetics are obviously trash.
Yeah.
But it's like as I keep training and training, it's like I realize, yo, you know what? Like it is feasible. Like I can get there at a certain point. Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow. If I give myself a year, 2 years, 3 years, I'll be way closer.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what your genetic potential is until you actually start lifting properly and consistently. Like you might be like a genetic outlier, but like you might not know it because you're not lifting, right? Like for example, like we could have someone that's like the strongest powerlifter ever, but he's never like touched a barbell and he would never know he was the strongest powerlifter ever, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or like there's that one, like again, kind of not a powerlifting example, but a bodybuilding example. Like there's this one guy like Nick Walker. Like before he like started training or before like he took like any roids or anything, like the guy was like a toothpick. But now like you look at him, it's like, dude, like you were that guy, you know what I mean? Like that was you like X amount of years ago.
Yeah.
That's why the whole like genetic things and powerlifting, it's like to me you'll never know unless you try and until you put in the work and until literally you put in like close to 10 years of your life, you won't know how high you could go.
Truth.
It's always those skinny dudes that are like they're like so skinny and then they're like you're like, man, like you're huge
like
now. What the heck? Yeah, it's like popcorn muscle.
Yeah, like
it's like an inflatable balloon.
yeah, but sometimes you know, they might not state, you know, what they take or not often, you know, sometimes they might not be natural, so there's that to keep in mind, right? Those dramatic before and after pictures of people, you know, changing their bodies dramatically in like short amount of time, especially, it could be a bit you know, suspicious. Misleading.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you got to be careful
because there's a lot of factors also, or maybe if they are natural, sometimes, you know, the way they get pumped up and they might be sweating a bit, there's downlighting, the way like the picture is taken or the video is taken can be that is played, you know, that is crazy. That is a factor they tune in, you know, they don't just take a random picture and just post it, you know, looking like their belly popping, oh, they're all jacked up, you know, pumped up, you know.
They did like a 3-day water fast or something, just like dry as hell and perfect lighting.
Don't believe everything you see on social media, basically, because you know, it can be discouraging for natural lifters and you know, people who are starting out. So that's why it's always keep in mind you're competing against yourself. Are you better than you were yesterday? If so, then, you know, keep on going, and it's a long journey, you know, to get that kind of physique and strength. Like 10 years, yeah, that's a good time frame to have in mind. A good 10 years.
Yeah, I think
pretty much.
Yeah, I think for natural lifters, it's like it's a time constraint, right? Like it's how long you've been doing it and how long
are you
willing to keep doing it. Yeah. A lot of people end up quitting after like 2-3 years, and it's like, yeah, you would have never seen like the potential you had, because as a natural lifter, it takes so much longer, and as you become more advanced, like the progress is just slower and slower. It's
you got to keep, you know,
like
believing in the process.
Yeah, you just yeah, and sometimes like let's say as an advanced lifter, it's not like chasing PRs all the time. It's like, okay, today I'm gonna go in to the gym and I'm gonna try to hit like, you know, something without feeling pain, or I don't know, something without you know, exceeding my RP for the day. Things like that. That's the kind of progress you need to chase as a natural advanced lifter. Whereas if you're a beginner and every week you could slap on 5 pounds to the barbell, you know, it's a different rate of progression for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a different game for, like, depending on your strength level and your I guess how advanced you are,
or your natty status.
Or your natty status.
No, that could be a big factor. Yes,
let's not underestimate it. You know, recovery, right? As I'm also getting more into this and having you know, heavier and heavier weights, I see that, you know, I do a bit of heavy weights and I'm like, oh, I'm done, you know, like I got to take a day or two rest. Whereas I see other people, you know, I train 5 days a week, I train hard, I go hard. I'm like, how does he go hard like that? But because a lot of times, yeah, they're maybe on the roids, and it helps the recovery process more. So that's the thing. It's not always about working hard and just killing yourself at the gym. It's about balancing and making sure to program it correctly to have enough rest days and recovery to keep performing.
Yeah, and I think that's what like an underrated component of taking gear essentially is people that are on PEDs, they take advantage of that increased recovery rate, right? They recover so much faster than natural lifters, and because of that, they could go in every session, feel fresh and a lot of energy, and hit crazy PRs every time. Whereas a natural lifter, they don't have that luxury,
No.
right? It's every day, especially if you're an advanced lifter. Like I'm getting, for example, me and Anthony are getting close to, I guess we're kind of like advanced lifters at this point. We get in there and it's like sometimes we feel like crap, we feel beat up. It happens almost every time now for me anyways, that I don't go to the gym feeling like 100% almost ever, just because recovery is so much worse at this point,
You got to take a week off each time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to take a week off. You got to
Yeah.
I don't know, sleep for 5 days straight.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, pretty much. And I think that just all comes down to like what Heiko said before, like whether you're natty or you're not, it's like you need to find a program, or like, yeah, whether like whatever is going on in your life, you need to find a program and make sure that
Yeah.
it works for you. Regardless of what it is, like it has to work for you, or else you're
Yeah.
kind of not doing
Yeah,
anything.
work for your schedule, your own life. Are you studying? Are you working out in the morning versus the evening? Oh yeah, is there a certain benefit? People who work in the morning versus evening, or I guess it doesn't really matter. In your opinions?
Depends. Honestly, like I love night workouts. I noticed that for me, like especially like when I go for like heavy singles, and like I after I leave the gym, like I do have this euphoric feeling of like, wow, I feel so good. But at the same time, like you asked me to do like any type of math after like a 3 hour workout, I'm just
Yeah, of
not
course.
gonna do it. If I'm being honest. So that's why I like working out more at night. It kind of like, to me, it also like feels like a reward for like actually doing my stuff during the day. So I guess it also ensures that I do my stuff during the day as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think what I noticed back on that point of like, if strength training kind of makes you tired or not. Well, what I noticed recently is personally I started doing a little more like conditioning, and I've been doing like swimming a lot. I've been going to like the pool and whatever. And I noticed after like a cardio workout, I feel much less tired. I almost feel like more energized like for the rest of the day. Whereas if I do like powerlifting, I feel so drained. It's crazy. Like I can't do anything. I guess it just shocks your CNS differently, right? Your central nervous system. It's a different stimulus, and cardio kind of gives me that energy. I don't know if it's like increased blood flow or whatever it is to the brain, but like powerlifting just it drains me. Like I can't do anything almost after. I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, which I mean, it is good if you're like an insomniac and like you work out right before you go to sleep. But other than that, it could be a bit annoying if you do workouts in the morning.
Yeah, it can be a bit rough. I know I do feel the same. Like kind of just want to relax after working out. Although I don't know if I would recommend people to work out like right before sleeping, because I think it could maybe mess with your sleep pattern. Because since you're getting really excited and like the adrenaline and blood flowing because your body temperature rises, and to go to sleep you need to lower your body temperature. So maybe at least give an hour or two before sleeping. Like finish your workout at least a couple of hours before to not interfere with your sleep. I don't know, Anthony, maybe you're different, or maybe for you.
No, okay. I mean, I was just exaggerating, but yeah, like okay. I agree with what you're
don't
saying.
just like bench and go to bed. You're not gonna fall asleep.
Like if you have a home gym, like you're not just gonna slap your mattress next to your like bench press.
Yeah, okay.
That's not what I'm saying, but yeah, all I'm saying is that it makes me tired a bit after I'm done.
And to add to Heiko's point, like if you're working out too close to your bedtime and you end up taking like pre-workout and things of that nature, then that could definitely mess up your sleep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Anything like that has caffeine, really, to try to avoid that before sleep.
Yeah, for sure. I think pre-workout, it should be
Yeah.
limited to like, early afternoon at most kind of thing. Like even
Yeah.
if you take it like in mid-afternoon, it could still mess up your sleep. Like ideally pre-workout, you keep it for the morning. If you want, if you're about to hit a session in the early afternoon, then whatever,
Mm.
it's fine. But ideally in the morning, I think is best for pre-workout and caffeine in general, right?
Yeah, I think honestly, like I have an interesting relationship with caffeine because like I've had like I am a student, so anybody that's a student can relate to the fact that sometimes when you make your schedule for a semester, it's just garbage. And it's like I had a semester where it's like just by coincidence, I would have to wake up at 6 a.m. every time I was working out, and then I would have to work out at like 8 p.m. at night. So already I would be like under rested, and I'd have like an entire day of school and
Mm.
then have to go to the gym. So like for me personally, like experimenting with caffeine like right before my workout, right after my last class, this and that, I noticed that like after experimenting a little bit with it, like I could find a leeway where it's like, hey, if I take a caffeine dose at this time, I'll be good for my workout, but then for sleeping, I'll still be okay. Like I'm not going to be up until 4 a.m. like at night.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I think that's also an interesting thing about caffeine. It's like also the amount is really important because different pre-workouts have like a lot, like a very much varying like amount of caffeine. Like I have a friend who like he bought a pre-workout. I can't forget the name, but it was like literally one scoop is like 400 milligrams of caffeine, which is like ridiculous. Like that is probably like if you take that right before bed, you're not sleeping until the next night,
Yeah,
pretty
no,
much.
Yeah, you won't sleep all week with that.
yeah.
Yeah, literally, like it's crazy. But it's like if you have like a little espresso, like 7, is that really gonna keep you up until 4 in the morning? I don't think so. Especially if you're like so underslept from the
But
day
it could
before
still affect.
Yeah.
It could still
or from
affect
just
the
the day in
quality of
general.
sleep because I've heard, with caffeine, like even little can go a long way because like caffeine has a quarter life, they say, of like 12 hours, meaning like let's say if you take 100 milligrams of
Oh
caffeine,
wow.
after 12 hours there's going to be 25 milligrams still left in your bloodstream, so then you have to wait longer for that 25 milligram to get rid of your system. Yeah, like caffeine stays a long while. That's why like they recommend
Oh,
cut out there.
Anthony, yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, good.
No, yeah, because that's what I've heard. They recommend drinking caffeine, max until like 1 p.m. because of that 12-hour quarter life that caffeine has, to make sure at least until midnight, the caffeine is gone from your system. So, and that's the thing. Some people might think, oh, I'm able to sleep, but your quality of sleep is still affected without you maybe being aware of it. So that's what.
And then I guess I was just
Yeah, that's the
really
thing.
tired.
Maybe you were just knocked
I don't
out
know.
and you just, pass out and you sleep. But maybe, because you're going through different cycles throughout your sleep, and maybe you're not getting that good enough, rest, going through the deep cycles, the REM cycle, which is when, you're dreaming. So yeah, just to keep that in mind, because, one of the biggest performing enhancing drugs is your sleep, right? Having good sleep, it helps a lot in your performance. So yeah, to not skimp out on that. Have 7 to 9 hours each night is key.
And I think on the kind of the opposite side of the spectrum, like alcohol also
Yes.
has like an impact on sleep, right? Like I see, I'm drinking a little bit here.
Giving a good example, man.
I'm not giving a good example here, but that could definitely impact your quality of sleep, because they say that your REM sleep is actually affected by alcohol that you're drinking throughout the day,
Oh yeah.
and it's not good to drink alcohol too close when you go to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also alcohol actually is not conducive to muscle gain either. Like it slows down the rate of hypertrophy as well, which is something that I learned not really recently, but like I've known for a little while. And it's like that's also something you have to take into account, because not only is it messing with your sleep, but it also messes with
Alcohol
the muscles
is
Yeah.
just
to a certain degree.
not great all in all. Just best to limit as much as possible. Yeah. especially before sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, and university is filled with that, right? Caffeine, alcohol.
Yeah, it's an interesting place to be. Also, terrible sleep schedules. Yeah, all three of them pretty
they're
much.
not advocating for successful gains in university. You're just advocating for successful students and good grades.
Maybe Athlete X's new video is gonna be, you know
Yeah,
what's killing your
that's
gains? Your school.
It's like a Jeff Cavalier video.
You know, drop out.
yeah. I wonder where he's gonna put the fake weights in that
Oh
one.
god. Do they have fake weights in university?
Nah, I hope not. I mean, or else that uni gym is a bit of a scam, but I really hope not.
Yeah, so we talked about a lot of different things. How about we kind of close it off with talk about like your social media, you know, what your platform's about. Like your name in this meeting is Strength Explained, so explain what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I put my name like that. Like, I figured you were gonna introduce me as Strength Explained, so like, okay, I might as well put my name as that. But yeah, essentially, the whole reason why I started like my TikTok is because when I first started out, like I kind of wish I had somebody like help me out, because like I forgot who said this, but it's like once you like just get into fitness and like you're kind of like going through YouTube, like you're not always gonna find the best sources of information. And to me, that like I wasted a lot of time like figuring out the good sources of information. Like nowadays, if you ask me who I would listen to if you just started, I'd be like, yeah, probably follow like give some good information. Alex Leonidas or like Alpha Destiny. He changed his name recently on YouTube to Alex Leonidas. There's obviously like we keep mentioning him throughout the podcast, but Justin Lee also gives really good information. Matt Venna gives really good information about powerlifting more, but like also about just the gym in general. Who else? There's like five other people I can think of off the top of my head, but it's like if I had these resources when I first started, I feel like I would have saved so much time as a beginner, which is why I started this TikTok in the first place. Also, it kind of serves as like a training log because I do post like lifts on there as well. But yeah, the whole idea behind it is education.
Yeah, that's good. I saw your recent gym PR on that, like 400 for 3 on deadlifts or something.
Yeah, it was my first video. Like I saw like Gavin Adine. He's a really high level powerlifter from the States, and he did like a mic'd up like get ready with me workout. I was like, oh, you know what? Like that would be cool. I want to try that. So I bought like a mic, and I made a video about that.
Yeah. Is that the guy that does like
fun.
he kind of does like those silly faces with like 5 plates on his back or something at the bottom of a squat? Or I've seen him do that. I think Gavin Aiden, right? Yeah, he's crazy.
So yeah, it's the guy where like he's in the gym, he's doing something random, and then like his friend will come up to him like, "Hey, how do I do this?" And then like he repeats the question. Like that's kind of like a meme. Like he repeats the question back, and then he like explains.
Yeah, I think he must have been like a powerlifting junior world champion, I think.
Something like that. Really
I think
high
last
level.
year he finished
really
like one position above Matt Venna, if I remember correctly. So yeah, he's really strong. Yeah, so like you post videos mainly on TikTok, or is it on Instagram as well?
Yeah, Instagram. I don't really have one right now. I just kind of like post some things on my main account here and there. But I probably will make like a new Instagram account soon. Also, I do post on YouTube Shorts. I do plan on having like more long form content on YouTube because as I get better and better at like editing and like actually coming up with content scripts, like I want to make more informative videos on like topics that maybe aren't exactly anywhere like online yet, or like things that aren't like easily accessible on YouTube, I guess.
I guess your first long-term video, long format video is this one.
True.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this is the longest video I've ever made.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And if you guys go on the on Anthony's TikTok page, Strength Explained, you might see me on a couple of those. I'm like spotting him in a bunch of videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're in legitimately half of my gym videos. Like, not even kidding.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So I don't know if Aiko, you had anything to add.
Oh no. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of different topics here. Hopefully it's useful for some new lifters or people getting, want to get into powerlifting meets. But I think this was a great conversation, and we'll make sure to put Anthony's socials in our video description, so you guys could go check him out. And I think this was great. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Anthony, for coming on.
Thank you for having me
That was
on.
great.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
I appreciate
This
it.
was
All right, guys.
great. Well,
Thanks.
catch you guys on the next one.